minutes late. I am trying to get my shit together. Hello, hello. No, you are not going to bark. So my last like 2 videos straight have been interrupted by family and dogs, and it seems like this one might be trying to be too. Yay! Okay. All right, so I'm just going to set this up a little bit better, hopefully. And here we go. So hello. Welcome. Happy Tuesday. We're here. I have been so busy. I mean, like crazy busy since right before my vacation. I'm trying to do like spring cleaning stuff, organization, and then get ready for vacation, and then the shop stuff, and then this stuff. So it's been a little nuts. And if you see like my last at least 2 videos, you'll see that it has very clearly been a little nuts because they've like been interrupted, and it's just one of those things. How are you? Hi, Laura. Hello, Michelle. Hi, Stephen, Jewel. Hello. Hi, Mel. Deb is here. Hi, Laura and Raven. So, tonight, because I didn't have a whole lot of time to prepare, I wanted to do a subject that I know really well, so I didn't have to do a lot of preparation, which is good, but I kind of shot myself in the foot because that's why I'm a couple minutes late, because I kind of ran around at the last minute to pull the stuff that I needed to pull for tonight's video. So hopefully we'll be able to at least give you some good ideas. Tarot Tuesday. It's usually 99.999% about tarot. I decided I've gotten some questions recently. If you're like really a beginner, you may not know what Oracle is. If you're not a beginner, but you are not like proficient, you may know what Oracle is, but maybe not know how to integrate it with your tarot. And so we're going to talk about what Oracle is, and then we're going to talk about how you can, some different ways maybe that you can integrate it in with your tarot readings, and or do one or the other. There's a lot of different types of oracles, and so we're going to kind of look at some of them, and maybe, you know, if you didn't like Oracle before, maybe we can change your mind a little bit. And if you liked it, but maybe didn't know exactly how to use Oracle decks, maybe we can give you some suggestions. So it was finally a nice day here. And so we got outside to do some work stuff outside, and we have begun to do some stuff at the other house to try to move some stuff over or move stuff to storage, or it's been really crazy. And I feel like right now I have piles of stuff everywhere. And so I feel like I haven't been doing anything, even though I really have, but it's like not all put away yet. So it right now just feels like there's piles of shit everywhere. And if I moved the camera, you could see I have piles of books. I have piles of crystal stuff. I have piles of Beltane stuff that I've started pulling out so I can switch my altars. I have piles of stuff that we brought back from vacation. You're not alone. You have piles? I do. I have tons of piles. A lot of piles. But what's in front of me right now is piles of oracles. So let's start with the question of what is an oracle deck? An oracle deck, I would define an oracle deck as a deck of cards that I have a piled room. Yeah, but yours is, well, at least was really organized. So now you just have piles that you have to like separate into organize. Oh no, but you're doing kitchens and stuff, right? Okay, so an oracle deck. I would define an oracle deck as a deck of cards that is used for inspiration, encouragement, for your own benefit, for empowering, or to clarify a tarot reading, and can be used on its own as a divination tool as well. So I know that's kind of a broad idea. It can be any number of cards. So when we talk about tarot, we talk about it's 78 cards. No matter what system, well, okay, that's not technically totally accurate because we could be talking about Lenormand, which is technically a tarot, but is not 78 cards. But if we're talking about Marseille, Thoth, RWS, tarot, we are talking about 78 cards, right? So at least we know with tarot, there's 78 cards across the board for 90%. I would say it's got to be like 98% of tarot decks have 78 cards. And they are, for the most part, the same cards, right? There's 56 minor arcana cards and 22 major arcana cards. And they follow somewhat of the same systems, of the big three anyways, the same systems. And so you're learning 78 cards, and once you know those 78 cards, you can kind of apply them to any deck, right? Oracle is totally and completely different. Oracle can have, I've had Oracle decks where I have, I think, like 25. I think I have a couple Oracle decks that have very few, maybe 25, 26 cards, up to 100 something cards. And so it really is much more varied. It's much more up to the discretion of the author and the artist. It can be on any subject, and can follow any course. So it can have a system in place. It can have no system in place. It can have keywords on it. It can have entire paragraphs on it. It can have no words on it. It can have a book. It can have no book. So in some ways, a lot of people are kind of intimidated about Oracle because it is much more intuitive than tarot is, I would say, to start off with. It's much more intuitive. Some decks more than others. And it's so varied that we can really be talking about any topic, any number of cards, any system, I mean, it is extremely varied. So I can see where I have heard a lot of people say to me before, wow, Oracle is really intimidating. Like, I don't know if I can really do Oracle because it's super intimidating. Lack of structure, right? That confuses. Exactly. And a lot of people, you're not alone. A lot of people feel that way. You are relying much more on your own intuition. So that can be intimidating. And I understand that. Hopefully by the end of this, you will be a little less intimidated and just maybe be looking for a specific type of Oracle deck. Okay. Before we get into trying to pair it with the tarot or anything, I figured I would show you several different types of Oracle decks, so that you can get an idea of what kind of, and by no means am I going to show you every type of Oracle deck. Good luck. That is just not going to happen. Hi, Mick. I figured I would show you this one or this one. I can't remember which one was actually first. I have two decks that like I got pretty close to the same time period, I think. That were these have to be pretty close to my first Oracle decks. So we'll talk about these two and how they work first. The first one is Cheryl Richardson's self-care cards. Okay, so this is the old version. The copyright is 2001. And when this deck came out, this is a Hay House deck. Was it Hay House back then? Yes. Okay. Although it's funny, it was hayhouseradio.com. So that you can see how long ago that was. Hay House is one of the biggest, yep, I want to say production companies, but it's publishing companies of Oracle decks. They also produce some tarot decks, but not many. They are mostly Oracle decks. So let me just show you this type of Oracle deck. This type of Oracle deck has no book. At least mine didn't. Now, I can't say for sure. I know there is a new version out there. Mine did not come with a book. I did not. That was okay with me. I'm not a book reader anyways, but Oracle decks more than tarot I am, believe it or not, because Oracle decks are much more varied. These cards specifically, let me read a little bit like what was on the back of the deck. The New York Times bestselling author of Take Time for Your Life and Life Makeovers brings you 52 practical ways to honor your self-care. Each inspirational card will challenge you to take a specific action to improve the quality of your life in some way. Whether you eliminate clutter, clarify your priorities, ask for help, dream big, or learn to be patient, you'll experience the power of using small changes to make a big difference in your life. Okay, so this is what I would call an affirmation deck. This is a very specific kind of Oracle deck. This kind of deck is geared towards being a help in your life that will make you feel better about yourself. Called affirmation. So these have, what did I say, 52 cards. On the front is an image and a keyword, relaxation. On the back, it says something specific about the picture that is on the front. So in this case, we're talking about relaxation. And if we were pulling this card, let's say today's card would be allow yourself to be lazy. It's okay to do nothing. So you can see that there isn't really a need for a book. This is something that if you were pulling, exactly, if you were pulling one a day, one a week, whatever, however, I get it, 52 weeks in a year. I'm sure that's what they intended. I used to, trying to think, maybe I pulled them once a week until I went through like the whole deck. Sorry, I have like a sesame seed in my teeth. That's terrible. And then I would pull like one every 2 or 3 days, something like that. Or I would pull one a month for a while till I knew I really got that down. So this is the kind of deck that you want to pull a card and kind of put it in your bathroom mirror, put it, you know, in your center console in your car so that when you see it, you're reminded of what the lesson for this time period is. Or they just mimicked a regular deck of cards. That could be too. So this is like a lesson for you to learn something to help you out. So dance. I'm not going to show you every card. I'm just going to give you an idea of what these cards are about. Step into the light. Share your gifts and talents with the world. So that would be another affirmation for a specific time period. Truth. Tell the truth. Integrity is the key to living an authentic life. So that's another one. So I always loved when this one came up. Silence. Rest your mind. Silence is good self-care. So you can see where there's kind of life lessons on here that you want to have at the forefront of your mind throughout the week, throughout the day, however it goes. That gives you an idea. So this is an inspiration and affirmation deck. Exactly. Information aspiration deck. There are several on the market. This kind of deck is not one that I'm sure you could. For me, again, if it works for you, it works, right? For me, this kind of deck is a great deck. I would use this independently from any kind of tarot or anything like that. It would be a different kind of thing. This would be like, I'm going to pull this for myself once a week, or I'm going to pull this every couple days, a card for myself for this. This kind of deck, I would not try to do readings with, although if it works for you. This kind of deck, I would also not try to pair with a tarot deck, just because to me, it's not about that. It's not for pairing with a tarot deck. This is another example that you may have seen. This is a little bit more up to date, called The Universe Has Your Back. This is Gabrielle Bernstein. Love her. She has some great affirmation books and stuff out. So again, this is a little bit different. These are the backs of the cards. So, and all of them have the same backings. So it follows a little bit more true to form. And then the front has some kind of affirmation for you. So I am a spirit having a human experience, and I'm here to get closer to love. So again, this is some kind of affirmation, a daily affirmation, a weekly affirmation, something for you to focus on to improve your mental health. Oneness is my true nature. And this is a deck that I like a lot. Same kind of thing. My vibes speak louder than my words. So it's something for you to learn to brighten your day, to help you feel better about yourself in the mornings. If you're going through a tough time, it's something for you to pull a card from, that kind of thing. Again, affirmation deck. I would not necessarily use this in conjunction with anything else. I also would not use this technically for an actual oracle deck. I would not be pulling this to like ask it questions. Now, some people, hi Claire, some people might get perfectly good readings from this. And that's okay. Yes, you could put a card on your altar, exactly. Give you something to focus on. Or if there's a specific card that you're like, oh, this would be really good for this season or this week or this goddess, or absolutely. This would be a great one like that. Okay, that's one kind of oracle deck. Trying to think what I'm... All right, let me go. The next thing I'm going to do is show you the second... I think this was my second oracle deck. This deck, actually, my mentor, David, who we've talked about before on here, he loved this deck. And so I bought it because this was kind of my first introduction to an oracle deck. This is Art Through the Eyes of the Soul. There's another one by the same artist and author, I guess, and it's a purple box. I don't have that one, but Art Through the Eyes of the Soul. This follows a little bit more the traditional way of the oracle. In that it has a book. I'm going to drop everything. Hi, Catherine. It has a book. This also has 52 cards. The book has more information. You can tell, look how much I read these books. Has more information than the cards themselves. You'll see these cards have like a short one sentence kind of key phrase on there. So this book is one that you may pull out and may give you more information. So if you look at the cards here, we have the backs of the cards are all the same. Again, this is a gilded deck. And then follow your heart. So we have an image and a little key phrase, follow your heart. Fairy love, F-A-E, they spelled it right, F-A-E-R-Y. Fairy love, follow your heart. Weave your own destiny. Ariadne and the stellar wheel. So these would be more in line with what I would consider kind of a day-to-day, kind of a regular oracle deck. You could use these as an affirmation, or you could also use these as to glean more information from a tarot deck. Or you could use these to ask questions to the universe. And then the issue then becomes, though, you have to intuitively be able to say, okay, if I'm asking a question and I pull a card from here, can I glean what the answer to my question is from the card? And so that's a lot of intuitive work, right? This is where I feel the art and images of oracles are super important. Yes, for being able to connect. Absolutely. And you have to, I would say, definitely know what kind of deck you're getting before you order a deck. Because if you're looking for this kind of deck and you end up with an affirmation deck, you're going to be disappointed in how it works for you. Shoot, I forgot. Hold on one second. I just want to pull one more deck, I think, if I can find it. I think it's these. And I'll show you an example of a deck that I really liked, but I was also disappointed because of the kind of deck it was. It might be these. Nope, it's not. Where's the dark? Oh, it's this. Okay. So know what kind of deck you're getting. I lost my favorite oracle and tarot cards. What should I do? Get another deck. Find a deck that is similar. If you let me know what kind of decks they were, I can give you an idea of kind of what similar decks are. There are so many different oracle options. I would say probably, I don't know, not anymore. I was going to say, I would say more than tarot. It used to be that the oracle options were way more than the tarot decks. With the influx of the popularity of tarot, your guess is as good as mine how many of each thing there is out there. There's so many different decks out there for both that you may, I don't know, there may be more tarot now. I don't know. There's so many different for a lot of things. Okay. Where do I want to go from here? Let's talk about really quickly. So we're talking about that kind of an oracle deck is something that when you pull a card, it was my first tarot deck from my dad, and the archetype oracle cards by Kim. I don't remember the last name. So is it an out of print deck? So let's say you are pulling for a question. And by question, I mean you can ask tarot and oracle any question you want. Now, I will tell you that both are finicky about what they will answer. And sometimes you can ask it all you want. It will not answer the question you want it to answer. So if you say, should I quit my job? And you pull a card. And I happen to pull two, but I'm not. This is the first one. Seek a wise elder. Well, that is the kind of answer you can expect a lot. So is this technically an answer to my question? No. But it's pointing me to someplace that I should look to before I make that decision. So it's saying, seek someone that you trust, someone who is more mature than you, maybe someone who is in the field that you are working in, and ask their opinion about your question. And they can get pretty snarky sometimes. If you ask a question that you shouldn't be asking, tarot sometimes will flat out tell you you're an idiot. Instead of answering your question, it will just say, yeah, you're just dumb. Depending on the deck. And Oracle will do the same. So that just gives you an idea of this can be used to ask your questions, though. This can also be used, we'll get into a little bit later, as an addition to tarot. This is, I would say, a deck that you certainly could do that. Okay. Be careful what kind of Oracle deck you are ordering or you are getting before you get it. A lot of times I have many independent and many mass market. So we've talked about this for tarot before, but let me just reiterate. Independent decks are decks that the creator has crowdfunded usually, or is rich and can do it on their own, and gone to an independent publisher to print and sell the decks. Kickstarter is a big one. Indigo is the other big one, but there's other, people have done GoFundMes before for that. So independent decks is just one that a big publisher has not published for them. A mass market deck is one that you can find on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, that kind of thing. It is one that Hay House or Rockpool or US Games or someone picked up their idea and said, yes, I will help you with the publishing and all that kind of stuff, and we will publish your deck with some of our additions or some of our, say-sos on there. And then it'll be mass marketed to the public at large. This deck happens to be an independent deck that I got through Kickstarter called Obsidian Oracle. I wasn't meant to buy Oracle decks this year and only focus on tarot, but then you did Into the Lonely Woods stream. That's such a beautiful, it is a great deck, right? Yes, indie decks tend to have limited numbers. Exactly. They usually publish a couple thousand decks and that's it. Sometimes they come out with different editions. If it goes really well, they'll do like a second edition, a third edition, that kind of thing. A lot of times you'll find independent decks on Etsy. That's another good place. So this is called Obsidian Oracle. I loved the idea of this deck. I backed it on Kickstarter. It does have a book, but I wanted to show you it because I want you to be careful that you know what kind of Oracle deck you're looking for before you order it. Because my ADD brain does not pay enough attention sometimes, and I end up with a deck like this that I will never use and I probably should get rid of, but it's an independent deck, so I have a hard time getting rid of independent decks. Anyway, so here's the book. Has the little guidebook. And it's a very basic little guidebook that just says like the name of what it is. Crane and stars, birch forest, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Here's the deck. Here's the backs. Love the backs. Oh, aren't they beautiful? Here's the gilding is gorgeous. It's like a rose gold gilding. It's beautiful. Oh, it's so pretty. The deck itself is very pretty, but if you look at it, did that card have words on it? If you said no, you'd be wrong. This deck has words on it, but you have to tilt the card correctly so that you can see the words. Here we go. Scarlet Ibis, and Abalone. Okay. So I never, ever, ever have used this deck because my old eyes have a hard time seeing the words on this deck, which are printed in black. And so when I go to read it, if it's kind of low light, like my ring light isn't working. So if it's kind of low light, I kind of have to do this till I catch the light the right way and have my glasses on and then go, okay, Scarlet Ibis and Abalone. Oh, I can finally read it. The images are very cute. I have no idea if it's a good reader because I can't read it. I like the images. I like a lot of animal oracles. I enjoy an animal oracle. Does it UV? Oh, that's a good question. Oh, look, a couple of the cards had light colored. That was a bad choice. Yeah, a couple of the cards do actually have some light colored, but because so many of them don't, I don't even bother to pull this out because I can't see it. And so if a deck annoys me right off the bat, I won't pull it out. I'm like, yeah, I'm not wasting my time because if I have to search for the letters and do this, oh, wait, there it is, Hawk and Green Fluorite. And I loved the idea that this deck, I was really excited because it combined animals and stones. Could you use it intuitively? Hi, Hex. Yes, I could. Yes, I could. Absolutely. The problem is that I don't know the plants, or I can't tell, like, what's that supposed to be? So intuitively, that just says like a prickly pear, maybe. Nope, cactus. That's all it says, cactus. A snail and a lily pad? Maybe. In actuality, it is snail. Oh, and bloodroot. Yeah, I don't know. Once a deck annoys me, it's really hard for me to use it. So I literally have never pulled it out. After I unboxed it, and I unboxed it on my channel, but I unboxed it and put it away. And this is probably the first time I've pulled it out since I unboxed it because it annoyed me too bad. So my point in pulling this out is make sure that you know what kind of oracle you're looking for when you order. Are you a person that's going to want everything you need on that card? So you're going to want like the paragraph kind of oracle, which I have a bunch of those too. Let's say, oh, let me think. Of course, now I can't think of any of them. Okay. Woo! Oh, I just barely caught that between my legs. Okay. This is Alice in Wonderland. This is, I'm assuming, a Lucy Cavendish deck. This is Alice in Wonderland. And so this is a card. In-depth guidebooks. Yes, I like the in-depth guidebooks. I have to say, with Oracle, I like the in-depth guidebooks too. This card says, you are rare and free. There are not many like you. That to me has enough on that card that I will never look at the book, but the book will have a lot more information. So if I want more in depth than that, I could always go to the guidebook, look up number 38, and number 38 will give me a ton more information about that oracle card and about its message. I will never do this. Not never, but I will very rarely do this. I'm not a good book reader when it comes to oracle and tarot. If I'm going to read a book, it's going to be a book, a novel, or a bio, or some kind of book that I like bought specifically to read the book. my card reading, I want to be more intuitive than that. So I want a little bit of information at least on the card so that I don't have to run to the book all the time. That's me. You may want an oracle deck that you can read more intuitively. Now, I will tell you, there is one oracle deck that I read for myself. I don't use it for other people. And does not have any words on it at all. And does not come with a book. Oh, yeah, it does. I just have never opened the book. How funny. I don't know if the book says anything, though. Hold on, I got to get it out. They are called soul cards, and I really love this artist. Hold on, now I have to look. Yeah, the book is a smaller book and does not say anything about the interpretations of the cards. The soul cards are a completely only intuitive reading. However, this is one of the few without any words that I actually like and use only for my own personal readings, though. I do not use this with tarot to integrate with tarot, and I do not use this for other people's readings. There are a lot of people who do this deck in specific. But I'm not one of them. I only use it for my own readings because when I intuitively read with this deck, it's very personal. It really touches me in a way that is a personal reading. And for me, that doesn't compute very well with other people. And that's okay. So again, if it works for you, it works, right? This is soul cards. And it's Deborah Lip. Is that her name? I want to say it's Deborah Lip. Deborah Chapin. Deborah Koff Chapin. And so that's a whole nother kind of oracle deck. If you find an oracle deck that doesn't have any words on it at all, then you know that is a highly intuitive oracle deck, and you should be prepared for that. So just know that when you order a deck, my LEDs are kicking in. When you order a deck, it is, what kind of deck is it? Is it an affirmation deck? Is it a regular oracle deck? Is it a deck with words on it? Is it a deck with keywords? Is it a deck with only animals? You have to know what kind of oracle deck you're getting before you order it. At least you should, because you're going to be disappointed if you get a deck that you intended on using for one thing, and when it comes, it's not at all prepared. You're not prepared to use it for that thing at all because it's way different. So be aware of what kind of deck it is. This specific deck I'm going to show you is one of the only decks that I read the book every single time I do a reading. I have used this deck for tarot readings to integrate into my tarot readings, and I have used it just for regular readings, and I have used it for affirmation. So some decks can do all of the above. This is one of those decks. It's called the Messenger Cards. It's Guidance from Animal Spirits by Sandra King. I'm assuming that this is probably out of print, but I don't know. I haven't really looked it up lately. I love these cards. They're very, very personal. To me, I love the images. I love the messages. And these can do it all. These can be intuitive readings. They can be just for the image. They can enhance a tarot reading for me. They can be affirmations. So there are some decks out there who can do it all for you. You have to know what kind of deck it is. It's still available on Etsy. Yay, I'm so glad because I've had this one for a long time. So I'm really glad that it's still available. It's kind of surprises me. But it is an incredible deck. Let me just read one of the books, or one of the things from the book. This is one of, I think, gosh, I don't think there's too many others that I actually read the book every time. But this is one. So this is Breaking Free. Raven. What if we allowed ourselves to be so different that we finally belong? Can we imagine what it would be like to live outside our social conditioning, where we would be free to live as empowered, free-thinking individuals? Every day we are told who we need to be in order to be loved and to belong, when in truth the opposite is true. When we finally let go of who we think we should be and we are walking our talk, then we are free to live our lives passionately and honestly. As well, worrying about what others think of us takes us out of the present moment, the only place we can access our true nature of divine love. Personal power comes from taking full responsibility for what we are creating and for finding our own peace and happiness, which exists only within us as free thinking and passionate beings. Okay, so again, I love this deck. This is one of the very few decks. I'm going to put my cocoa butter on my nose, so hopefully I stop doing this. That I actually use in all ways. In all ways. I have 2 decks by Anna Stark. They're beautiful and you can use them together. That's awesome. Awesome, awesome. Okay. Any questions so far? I have pulled a whole bunch of decks to show as examples. I just have kind of been running through it because, holy shit, we're 42 minutes in. I can't believe we're 42 minutes in, and I haven't even started talking about how to integrate it with tarot. Okay. How we doing so far? I can't copy the link. It's all right. All right. All my bags are everywhere. All right, so it is on Etsy though, so that's good. Any questions? When you meet a deck that talks to you, it's just majestic, isn't it? I love it, love it, love it, love it. Absolutely. I will tell you, I'm going to show you my 2 favorite decks. I have more than that. I probably have 3 or 4 or 5 that are like my favorite Oracle decks that I feel work with any tarot deck. And they are Terry Foss on Etsy did a deck called Earthly Souls and Spirits. This deck is a 1 keyword deck. It had, when it came out, it had a little card that explained, like had a couple more keywords, but it never had like a full book to it. This is one of those decks that I intuitively take the keyword and the image and use it to clarify my tarot readings. I can use this deck with every single tarot deck I have, and it works well with anyone. You'll see sometimes tarot decks and Oracle decks don't work well together, so you have to find either an Oracle deck like this one that you feel works with any deck, or you have to find pairs of decks. So a tarot and an Oracle deck that work really well together. Sometimes some artists make both. I can think of the Everyday Witch. No, is that it? Is that the Everyday Witch Tarot and there's an Everyday Witch Oracle, or am I screwing up the? No, I think that's it. There's an Oracle for that one. There's an Oracle and Tarot for the Santa Muerta, the Santa Muerta Oracle and the Santa Muerta Tarot that are by the same artist an author. There's a few like sets of decks that have come out like that. For me, I don't know. I have several sets like that. I don't use them as sets very often. I'm sure they probably would work like that, but I tend to go back to my 2, 3, 4 Oracle decks that work with any tarot deck. That might just be me. I don't know. Oh, here we go. Hot flashes. Hot flashes. Where's my fan? Oh, I was prepared. I brought my fan today. The other Oracle deck that I have 2 that I like are out and ready at all times that work with any tarot deck. That was the first one. The second one is the Anna. Why can't I remember her last name? Come on, Hex. Anna Turina. Anna Turia. The creator of Bonestone. Of Bonestone and Earthflesh. Her first Oracle deck is one that I can use with any tarot deck. It is this one. It is called Oracle of Echoes. And same thing. It has 1 Turian. Thank you. I knew it wasn't quite right. It has 1 or 2 words on there. And they are amazing words. And the images are amazing. And these are very good at clarifying my tarot readings. So I use this deck constantly. You can see it's a well-worn deck. Like if you look at the cards, you can see that I use them a lot. It is a very well-worn deck because I use them. I can use this deck with any tarot deck I pick up. These cards will work well. So I am going to use, I'm dying. I'm going to use this deck to show you, hi Fatima, how I integrate tarot and oracle. She's working on a tarot of echoes. I know, I'm so excited about that. Actually, I think she's all done with the art for tarot of echoes. It's in US Games hands. It's coming out through US Games. So I keep hoping that they will, after that, they will re-release the Oracle of Echoes also, so that I can get my hands on a second copy, because I keep missing when she comes out, when she came out with the second edition. I missed it when she came, like I keep missing it. I only have the first edition and I want a backup copy. Arthurian, yay! Yes, so, okay. Hopefully this hot flash will go away so I can show you how I integrate. Being a tarot reader, put forward oracle that I feel would add to the reading. Yes, it really is. Yes, trusting your intuition. Definitely about trusting your intuition. Definitely, definitely. Okay, so if I use, I'm going to pull out one of my favorite tarot decks, my Witch's Tarot by Ellen Dugan. This tarot deck is like very well loved. We were talking the other night about a well loved deck. Look at the color fading and stuff on the outside. You can tell I use this deck a lot. I have used this deck a lot. I can use either one of my Oracle decks, by the way, with this deck. Usually with this one, I use the Terry Foss one, but I can also use my Oracle of Echoes. But let's use the Terry Foss one just for shits and giggles. So when I am integrating, how to integrate a deck, there's a million different ways. And when I thought about doing a whole video about Oracle decks and how to do this, the issue becomes how I do it is not necessarily how everyone else does it. And you will have to find your own way of integrating. But I figured I'll at least show you how I do it. And then you can start practicing. Okay, so let's say you do a 3-card reading. A 3-card general reading. I'm just pulling 3 cards at random so that we can then work on how to integrate the Oracle into it. Okay. So the first card I pulled was the Two of Swords. The Two of Swords. Now, when I do a tarot reading, I pull at the same time normally. Like, okay, 1, 2, 3 tarot cards. Then I'll do 1, 2, 3 Oracle cards. So 1, 2, 3 Oracle cards. All right. And I will start with the first tarot card, Two of Swords. So if I was doing a reading for someone, I would say, okay, so the Two of Swords is a very intellectual card. You know that the swords is the intellectual suit, is the suit of intelligence, the suit of the mind. So in this way, the Two of Swords talks about the duality of your mind. It talks about having a choice, that one choice you know to be correct, but it may not be the easy choice. Usually with the Two of Swords, there's one choice that you know, I really am supposed to be going down this road. The other road may be a more difficult choice, and you know that. And in fact, usually it will be okay no matter what you choose. One will take you further. Usually if you make the correct choice, sometimes the harder option, you will learn more. It will take you further down the path you're supposed to go on. Okay, so that's the tarot part of this reading. Now, if you look at what I pulled for the Oracle, I pulled magical. And how would I integrate this into your reading? So now we're talking about intuition. Take what we just said about this tarot card. It is intellectual. It is about a choice that you know intuitively. Normally, the harder option is probably the one that you should go on. I would say with this card with it, I would say, you know what? Because look at this magical option. If you take that harder road, it's not going to be easier, but boy, will it be more magical. You will find that that road brings you on some magical journeys that you will not have on the easy path. That if you choose to take the easy path, you'll get through it. It'll be okay. It doesn't mean everything will fall apart, but there will be some things that you miss that will bring more magic into your life, that will bring more on your path of fulfillment than you would get with the other path. So it's okay if you decide that you're just too beat up right now, that you just can't go through the more difficult path. It's okay. But be aware that you're going to miss some of the magic that the universe has for you because you chose that easy path. Okay, so do you see how that happens? Again, Oracle is all about intuition. No matter what kind of Oracle you're talking about, you want to use your intuition. So your intuition may tell you something totally different. When you pull magical, it could have said something completely different. My intuition, that's what I would have read for that. Does that make sense? Can you see why that may give someone a little bit more information than if we just pulled this card for them and I told them the first part of that? That's perfectly okay. That's a good reading. Nothing says that, oh, Mama, you did a shit reading. You didn't give them enough information, whatever. But pulling that Oracle card, they both have the moon. How awesome, right? They both have a crescent moon on top of it. Pulling that Oracle card, though, gave us more information about their choice. So perhaps that was the thing they needed to know. It gave them more information than just pulling the tarot card for them. So it is a tarot enhancer. It can clarify. Sometimes you pull a card and you're like, I'm not sure what subject this is about. And Oracle can sometimes clarify, oh, this is more about this part of your life. Okay? Does that make sense? Let's look at the second card. The second card here was the Emperor. The Emperor meaning much more authoritarian. So in your life right now, you may need to really watch the rules of things. Understand that sometimes to get by in this world, you're going to have to make lists. You're going to have to follow the rules. You're going to have to know that A plus B equals C and how to get through that in order to make your way ahead in this world. That's all well and good. That's a very good thing to say for this reading. Look at what happens. Love. So your intuition now needs to say, what is it about love that can come with authoritarian emperor, with the rules, with making lists, and I would say my intuition in this case would say, just because you have to do all this, don't forget to integrate love into your life. You can be the authoritarian. You can be the list maker. You can follow the rules. You can also do all that and encourage love in your life. Encourage love for the outside. Encourage love for your loved ones, your animals, your pets. Encourage love in your spirit, in your life. That will light the way for you to get through this, especially if you're a person that doesn't like the authoritarianism, right? Especially if you're a person that when we pull the emperor like me, you go, ugh, I am not a good authoritarian emperor, rule maker, making lists. That's so not my life. So in this way, you can do that, but make sure you keep love in your life. Does that make sense? Woo, we are down to 9 people. Am I boring y'all? We'll do this last one and then we can show more decks if you want to show different kinds of decks, or we can be done. We're getting there. Queen of Pentacles. Be a leader, but do it with love. I love that. Queen of Pentacles. So we're saying the Queen is the embodiment of touching the earth, of being compassionate to the animals and the people around her, knowing how to make that relationship with the earth grow. I love all the plants around her. Her dog, her faithful dog is by her side. She knows how to do what she needs to do in order to have the finer things in life. When we pull the wish card with that, we can start to intuitively say, wow, you know what? You've got this down. You have saved money. You have done what you have to do in life in order to maybe have some of the luxuries of life. Make a wish. Do something for yourself that maybe you wouldn't normally do. But in this time, it is a wonderful time because you have some abundance growing out of your ears. Do something that you wouldn't normally do to make your soul happy. Get out there and make a wish. Do something that really speaks to your soul because you've got this. Okay? Does that make sense? Do you guys see how sometimes the oracle can enhance your reading? Sometimes it can tell you who to look to for help in this matter. If it's an issue that you're trying to go through. There's so much that it can tell you, that it can give you more details on what it is that the card is trying to say. Does that make sense? Any questions about the oracle? The oracle is more intuitive. The oracle is less constrained by the rules of tarot. Yeah, absolutely. See, Illuminated Earth Oracle. I love that one. That's a great one. That one also works with so many different decks, as well as, what's the other one? The Roots and Wings Oracle. This one is a great one, works with many, many different decks. The Illuminated Earth Oracle, that one is a great one, works with many, many different decks. Once you find that one or two decks that really speak to you, usually it can work with many different types of decks from there. So look at specifically what you're looking for in an oracle deck. Are you looking for affirmations? Are you looking for more information? Are you looking for a few keywords to help you, enhance some of your readings? Earth Magic. I love that one. That's a good one too. That's one that I used for a very long time. I will tell you, I hate CBR. Colette Baron Reed drives me crazy because she doesn't give her artists enough credit. But a lot of her oracle decks are great. I love CBR's Avalonian Oracle, or the Oracle of Avalon, or Mists of Avalon Oracle, something like that. There's a couple of them that I really enjoy and again, work really well with tarot decks. I tend to like animal oracles. I like crystal oracles. Some of the crystal ones are terrible, though. I will tell you that ahead of time. I have a lot of crystal oracles that I've never used because I opened them and I'm like, oh, pretty cards, but not good for readings for me. There's another way you could use a crystal oracle, though, is if you have a lot of crystals, pull a card and say, this is the kind of energy I need today. Go get that crystal. Or if you don't have a lot of crystals, but you really connect with crystals, pull a card and bring that energy of that stone with you, even if you don't have it. So you have that kind of energy with you for the day. That's a good way to do it. That gives you access to however many cards there are in that crystal oracle. It gives you access to that many different crystal energies. So that's a great way to do that. Any questions? I know this was such a hard teaching because it's so subjective. It's so intuitive that it's not an easy thing to teach, is how to read oracle. Just know that the first part of reading with an oracle deck is to know what you want out of your oracle deck. Know what you expect to do. Are you going to be using it for readings with tarot? Are you going to be using it for affirmations? Are you going to be using it specifically as altar cards? I have a deck, I have several decks actually, that I only use for altar cards. This is a beautiful oracle, the Green Wheel Oracle. This has some incredible cards that I use as altar cards because there's one for every Sabbath. That's the Imok Oracle card. This is Ostara. And so I use these specifically as altar cards and only altar cards. And it's got some great animals in there, but there are decks that I have that I really don't read with. I use them specifically as altar cards. That's okay too. Just before you order, have an idea of what you expect out of that deck. This is a deck that I use for teachings, for learnings. This is a deck with a whole bunch of different goddesses that has a picture of the goddess and then information about that goddess. So like this is the Demeter card. And then there's a whole bunch of information about Demeter on the back. That's a great deck for me. I use that a lot in teachings, or as if I want to connect with a specific goddess that I know is in this deck, I will pull this deck. Are oracle decks deeper than tarot? Sometimes. And again, that's a hard question because it's subjective. Sometimes I absolutely have found oracle to be deeper per se than tarot. Not always. Sometimes tarot is much deeper. I will say that when I first started out, I connected first with oracle because I didn't have to know the system. I only needed to use my intuition. Now with tarot, you don't always have to know the system either. If you trust your intuition enough, you can certainly just intuitively read the tarot. You have to really trust your intuition. I have a quote-unquote oracle deck that is all journal prompts. This deck, the backs of the deck is all the same. These are a bunch of different journal prompts for self-discovery. So you have like, what do I need to work on to make me a better person? That's a journal prompt. So many different kinds of oracle decks. How much of what you do every day would change if no one else was involved? So it has a picture and then a prompt. So if you're journal writing, it gives you something to write in your journal about. This deck I got on eBay, and I think I paid like $4 for it. It's, you know, a very independent, I'm sure, deck for someone that just wanted a bunch of journal prompts and then said, you know, use it so other people might like it. So many different types of oracles. So many. So really just know what kind of oracle you're looking for before you order it. And then you won't be so disappointed. I can't connect to tarot. I have a real hard time with tarot. Lene, I can understand that. A lot of people start out feeling that way because tarot is, I would say, tarot is much more of a commitment. You have to really commit to learn the tarot before you really feel proficient enough to actually read with it. And it's a pretty big commitment. It's 78 cards. No matter what kind of tarot you're dealing with, it's 78 cards that you really should know, at least be aware of, you know, the traditional meanings of the tarot. So that, you know, when you pull a card, you have an idea of what that means for you. So I can see, absolutely, when I first started out, I worked with Oracle exclusively. I probably had 3 tarot decks and 30 Oracle decks before I had any more tarot, because it took me that long to feel proficient enough in tarot to actually be reading. And it's funny, when tarot finally clicked for me, though, I started a huge love affair with tarot, and for years I got way more tarot decks than I did Oracle. It took me a while to be able to do both. So I can see that. Absolutely. All right. I will try really hard to not let it go this week as long as it did before I come up with the tarot teaching for next week. It will be on tarot. But I'm not going to commit to anything until probably the weekend. I'm going to try really hard to do it by Sunday. I have a class that I'm teaching on Saturday. And we have 2 shows to do for the shop in between that. So I may not be ready to put in the work to figure out what next Tarot Tuesday is going to be. But I will try really hard to do that by Sunday. Okay? So I thank you guys for joining me, even though this was a weird Tarot Tuesday, not about tarot, or not a lot about tarot, right? And I love you all, and I will see you next week. Keep an eye out. I'm going to continue to do unboxings, hopefully, not daily, but more. All right. I love you. Oh, hi, Kay. Bye, Kay. I love you. I love you guys. Have a good night.